Hello YouTubers, welcome back to Edification 360 Degrees. And so for now we are focusing on social sciences, and remember social sciences comprises of geography and history. With this specific video we are focusing on geography, grade 7, and this video is based on local maps and street maps. Stay tuned. Before we get started with the content that we need to cover for social sciences geography term 1, it's important for us to have an overview of all the topics that will be covered throughout the year. And so in the first term, we focus on map skills, and with map skills, the focus is primarily on local maps. In the second term, we look into earthquakes, volcanoes, and floods. In the third term, we look into population growth and change. In the fourth and final term, we look into natural resources and conservation in South Africa. For the first term, our topic is map skills, and remember our focus is on local maps. And so with this topic, we have 5 subtopics that we need to cover for the term. Firstly, local and street maps. Secondly, sketch maps and explaining routes. Thirdly, a project, and this project is based on drawing a sketch map of a local area. Fourthly, distance and scale. Fifth and lastly, for term 1, we'll be looking into current news. Alright, and to get straight to the content for this particular video, remember we said we are looking into local maps and street maps. And so under that we have 3 very important subtopics, and these are some skills that you'll be gaining which will be useful in geography. Firstly, finding places on a map of a local area. Secondly, using an index and a grid to locate places in a street guide. Thirdly, we'll be looking into using a street map to find places and to describe routes. Finding places on a map of a local area. A local area is an area where you live. Maps of local areas show only a small area. Hence, you can actually walk around your local area in a few hours. We use grid reference to find homes, schools, and places of interest on a map of a local area. And so just a quick recap. Remember, grid reference was covered in social sciences in grade 4, 5, and 6, and we're also going to cover it in grade 7. What is a grid reference? A grid reference is a map reference which indicates a location in terms of vertical and horizontal lines, which are identified by numbers and letters. And so I have given you a map on the screen. With that map has been divided into columns. Those columns, they run from the top to the bottom, and it's also been divided into rows which are running from left to right. These columns and rows, they form a grid. Each line on the grid has been given a letter or a number. And so maps vary. Some of the maps would have letters on the left or right hand side and would have numbers at the top or at the bottom, and also vice versa. And so with the map that is on the screen, on the left hand side you have been given letters, your alphabets, and at the top you have been given numbers. Remember with grid reference, let's say for example if we wanted to look at the grid reference for ocean view, would say the grid reference for ocean view is A4. So you would always start with the letter and then the number. It's never the number and the letter. You cannot say 4A. It's actually A4. And so with a grid reference map, you would have your map and you'd also have your key which shows symbols. And so remember, these symbols are really there to help you understand what is happening on the map. All right, and so with the map that is currently on the screen, we have alphabets A, B, C, D. We have numbers 1, 2, 3. And the numbers at the top, your alphabets are on the left-hand side. We have a key. Our key shows a symbol for the city or town, for mountains, country boundary, a forest, a lake, a mileage between points, a coastal line, an interstate highway, a state highway, and a local road. And if you look closely on the map, you'll see that all these symbols are represented. So let's say, for example, we wanted to find the grid reference for Milltown. What would be your answer for the grid reference of Milltown? That's correct. The grid reference for Milltown is C1. And so, let's say I wanted you to find out which grid references does the Interstate 15 highway cover. And so as we can see, the Interstate highway, the one that's written number 15, covers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It covers 6 grid references. And so if we look at it from the top, we'd see that it actually starts in block A3, and then it proceeds to B3, and then it covers C2 and C3, and then it goes down to cover D2 and also D1. And so hence I said it covers 6 grid squares. Right, another one. Let's say we wanted to find out the grid squares that the forest covers. Which grid squares would the forest cover? Look closely on your map. That's correct. The forest, it covers 4 grid squares. Our forest, let's start on the left-hand side. It covers the grid square B1, B2, C1, and C4. Our lake, which is called Lakeside, which grid reference would you say it covers? That's correct. It covers the grid square D3. So on and so forth. All right, and so as we are looking into this topic of finding places on a map of a local area, it's important for us to highlight 3 things that have been covered in grade 4, 5, and 6. Line scale, compass, and the key. We'll start with the line scale. The line scale is as indicated with the red arrow on the screen. The line scale is a numbered line that shows how many meters or kilometers are represented by the distance that has been measured. And so if we look into the line scale that is on the map that's displayed on the screen, it shows us that each centimeter actually represents 100 meters on the ground. Now moving on to our compass. A compass shows the 8 points of direction. Remember, right at the top we have north, at the bottom we have south. On your left hand side we have west, we also have east. And in between each of those points we have northeast. Northeast is between north and east. We have southeast. Southeast is in between south and east. We have southwest. Southwest is in between south and west. Lastly, we have northwest, which is in between north and west. Those are the 8 points of direction. Thirdly, our key. Our key explains what the symbols mean or what they stand for. And so on this map, we have a key. Our key shows us Fatima's house, a clinic, a hotel, a place of interest, a place of worship, a police station, a school, sports ground, swimming pool, a railway station. All right, and so to check if you understood the content that we have just covered, there is activity 1.1. And so for activity 1.1, you are going to use a map. It's on the right hand side of the screen. It's also provided on the following slide. Use the map to answer the questions below. This map is a street map that is showing a part of Cape Town. Question 1. Point to the following on the map and explain how they each help to find places. A, key, it's for 2 marks. B, compass for 2 marks. C, line scale for 2 marks. Question 2. Find the grid squares where 4 schools are located. There's a number of schools on this map. And so you are only going to write 4 grid squares for 4 schools. Question 3. Give grid squares for A, Belmont Place of Worship, and that is going to be for 2 marks. Vineyard Hotel, swimming pool, and Fatima's house. All right. With these places that I've given you, most of them, they are in more than 1 grid square. And so please indicate all the grid squares that To answer activity 1.1, you are going to use this map. It's just that on the previous slide, it's not so clear. Hence, I've just made it clear on this slide. So you use this map to answer the questions on activity 1.1. Using an index and a grid to locate places in a street guide. Maps such as those that I've shown you in previous slides are often found in a book of maps that is called a street guide or a street atlas. As displayed on the screen, I have given you just an example of a street guide for Gauteng and a street guide for Cape Town. With these street guides, there is an index at the back of the street guide, and this index is really to help you find streets, schools, and places of interest. You use this index in the street guide in the same manner that you would use an atlas index. I know with the school that I'm teaching at, we are using the Oxford Primary School atlas, the one that is for grade 4 to 6. I'm aware there's also another one for secondary, which is for grade 7 to 12. And I am aware that with atlases, the names vary, the different brands vary. And so the index of this street guide is quite similar to the index of an atlas. All right. In this atlas, the names of the places are listed alphabetically, and the grid square in which you'll find that particular place is printed next to the name of the place. As we go further, I will just explain what I mean by that. And so this is an example of an index that you would find in a street guide. And as you can see, it is in alphabetical order. And for each of the streets, you have grid squares. And so some of the places, for example, Abel only has one grid square, whereas there are places like Fox, which have 4 grid squares. Fox fills up A4, B3, C3, and D3. So as we can see, it's in alphabetical order, and it is showing us the grid squares where you'd find these streets. And so it becomes easy for you. Let's say you want to go to President Street, then it's easy for you to know which grid squares you are going to focus on. And so this is just an example of the index that I was explaining in the previous slide. And now there's an opportunity for you to just assess yourself if really you heard and understood what I was explaining with regards to using an index and a grid to locate places in a street guide. Activity 1.2. Use the guide which follows. In the following slide, there is a particular guide. You have seen it in the previous slide. You are going to use that index to answer the questions below. First question, define the following terms, and each of these terms are for 2 marks. A, index. B, street guide. C, a grid. Question 2. Find the following places in the index. And there are 4 places and it's for 4 marks, meaning that each place is for 1 mark. A, Catherine. B, McLaren. C, Quartz. D, North. Question 3. List the grid squares where the following is found. A, GP Street. B, Marshall Street. C, Simon Street. D, Harrison Street. And so you will see here most of these streets actually take up more than 1 grid square. And so if that is the case, you need to write all the grid squares that this particular street takes up. This is the index that you are going to use to complete activity 1.2. And now we move on to using a street map to find places and to describe a route. Street maps help you to find places and to describe a route. Remember, a route is the way along roads and paths that is between two places. And so street maps helps you to find places and to describe a route from one place to another. On the screen, I have given you a street map of a part of Soweto. Orlando West and Dube are displayed on this map. If we look onto this map, there are many streets. On block A1, we can find Bejane Street, Kudu Street, Bele Street, Tabete Street, Piri Street. We also have Pela Street. We also have Uncle Tom's Community Hall. On block A2, we can find a community center along with Mandela Museum, with Mvumbu Street, Armitage Street, Rile Street, Bakwa Street, Lembede Street, Ngakane Street, and also an A train. On block A3, we find A Bitluma School. We see a community center, two community centers. We also have Orlando Satellite. We have Adam Street, Belenden Street, Hlatshwayo Street, Litsatsi Street, Hebe Mdingi, Pele Street, Muki Street. On block B1, we have a tourism center which is called Ubuntu Crawl. We have Mika Street, Malifane Street, Nkadimeng Street, Mtipa Street, Tambo Street, Koka Street. On block B2, we have a main road that is called Klipspruit Valley Road. It's yellow. We have Skosana Street, Tulu Street, Nyokana Street, Mkati Street. We have 3 schools. The first school is Zakeni Primary. Another school is called Zifune Leni School, and another one is called Silope Street. And on B3, we have a main road that is called Sofa Sonke Street, and with that there is a number of roads. Just to mention a few, we have Kuno Street, Mahlangu Street, Ngobo, Mota Street, Sara, Makapela Street, Mpele Street, Khoza Street, etc. There's also a school on that block. And so let's say, for example, I wanted to ask you, how do we go? Which route would you take? Let's say if you are traveling from Vilakazi Street and you wanted to come all the way to Zakeni Primary School. Remember, Vilakazi Street is in block A1 and Zakeni Primary School is in block B2. And so I'm asking you, what would be the route that you take? Let's all look on the screen from Vilakazi Street, which is in block A1, and we are going all the way to Zakeni Primary School, which is in block B2. What route would you take? Let me just give you a few seconds to just look on what route you would take from Vilakazi Street going to Zakeni Primary School. Okay. All right. Now let us just look into the route, on what route you would take to go from Vilakazi Street to Zakeni Primary School. From Vilakazi Street, you would go straight down. You would pass Mandela Museum on your left. You would then take a street that is close to Bishop Tutu. Go straight. You would turn right on Pela Street, the yellow street. You would go down Pela Street, go down, past number 79, go straight down. You would then turn right into Tulu Street. And after turning right into Tulu Street, you would turn left and you would find Zakeni Primary School. I hope that you got the same route as me. It's possible at times that we can be going to the same destination, but we take different routes. So it could happen that you have a different answer compared to me. All right. Second one, what route would you take if you are going from AB Xhuma Primary School? From AB Xhuma Primary School, you wanted to come to the Orlando Satellite. Both these places are in the same grid square. What route would you take to go from AB Xhuma Primary School to come to Orlando Satellite? I'm just going to give you a few minutes to just establish the route that you would take. Okay, from AB Xhuma Primary School, you would go straight down. You would turn right into Mookie Street. Go straight down Mookie Street. As you go down Mookie Street, you are going to pass a community center on your left hand side that is green. You proceed. You then turn right into the Orlando Satellite. Remember, with your route, it's important for you to describe the places that you would pass on your left and on your right hand side. I mean, with this task, think of it as you have one of your siblings that is coming to visit, and you need to explain to that sibling where your home is. Explaining routes and describing routes is very important, especially should you need to direct someone. It's important to do that. Or let's just do a simple task. Sit, think to yourself, how do you go from your home to school every single morning when you go to school? How do you travel? Whether it be you are walking, you are driving, your parents are taking you, or you are on a school transport. How do you travel from your home coming to your school? What road do you go on? What places do you pass? What shops do you pass along the way? Next up, we have activity 1.3, and this is to help with finding places using a street map. Use a street map which shows part of Cape Town to answer the questions below. Question 1, point to and write the grid squares for the following. It's for 6 marks, and there are 6 places that you need to find, meaning that each one is for 2 marks. A, Marist Brothers School. B, VOB Sports Ground. C, Rhodes Memorial. Question 2. Write a set of directions for the following routes. A, the route that Fatima takes with her family from their home to the place of worship. B, imagine you attend school at Rustenburg Primary School and there is an event at your sister or your brother's school. Your sister or brother attends school at Bishop High School. Describe the routes you will take to get to Bishop High School from Rustenburg Primary School. For question 2, it's very important for you to look at your key, look at your symbols, because they will show you the symbol for Fatima's house, the symbol for the place of worship, and also the 2 different schools that we are speaking about. And remember, with describing your route, it's important for you to point out that you go up, you go down. It's important for you to point out what you pass along the way, the places you pass along the way, whether they are on your left hand side or right hand side. And hence, question 2A, question 2B, they are each for 10 marks. Okay? To answer activity 1.3, you are going to use this map. It's just that on the previous slide, it's not so clear. Hence, I made the slide so that the map is clear enough for you to be able to answer the questions. Thank you so much for joining us today as we're tackling social sciences, geography grade 7, the topic of local maps and street maps. If you have any questions or would like to comment, we are available on the social media platforms which are displayed on the screen. Be sure to share with others, be sure to subscribe, and remember, knowledge is power. Thank you so much.